And we're back. Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey chapter 68. It is the second day of the week, aka the Quadzilla workout. There's absolutely nobody on the road right now, which is kind of crazy. Anyways, I'm feeling good. Knees are feeling all right. Nothing too crazy. Probably a little bit of a warm up will make them feel a little bit better. But besides that, feeling good. Looking forward to going to the gym and such. Looking forward to all of that. Today's subject matter, a little bit off the cuff, mostly because I was talking about it in yesterday's video, but it only briefly came up in yesterday's video, and I thought, oh, maybe I should probably expand on it a little bit because it is something that I would say hand in hand, but also is an important factor in a lot of this stuff, and also somewhat of a thing of how I've been feeling recently, and that is failure. We're going to talk about failure in multiple aspects. So we're going to talk about first in the gym, and then second in the world. When it comes down to it in the gym, failure is something that, though, whether it's muscular failure or technique failure, they are something that you kind of have to be aware of, one, but two, also, you don't have to always push it to those limits all the time, obviously. Technical failure is probably the better of the two to get to, if anything. Muscular failure, though you can do it, and works for a lot of people, and I do it too. I'm not gonna say I don't. So on certain movements, there are other movements you probably shouldn't do it on. Squats, for example, are something that you shouldn't muscularly fail on. That's just recipe for disaster. Deadlifts are another one, Bench, if you don't have a spotter, certain heavy compound movements, you just don't want to have an all muscular failure, because that's just a recipe for a disaster immediately. So you got to be careful about something like that. I don't need to show you videos of people failing certain exercises. I mean, literally a guy died because he failed to squat and the bar rolled over his neck. Now, did he not bail correctly? Of course, that also does play a factor into it, but still, you got to be careful. I mean, literally, your life is on the line. There's nothing to fuck around with or play around with. Now, are there machines or other exercises in which you can go to muscular failure to and feel good? Yes, actually. I do it all the time on spider curls because I can get to a point where I know I can just drop the weight and it's fine. I should be all right afterwards. So that's the good part about something like that. You got to be careful when it comes to muscular failure and or technical failure. When it comes to technical, you just got to be careful of when you do it, because obviously there are some movements where if it starts to go bad and you start pushing it a little too much, for example, squats is the ultimate example of this. If you squat it and then to get it back up, you kind of good morning the weight up, it's like, all right, you're done, stop it. Those are the two types. People focus way too much on it. I think it's just you want to just keep pushing yourself in whatever rep range you are in and see where that goes. If it's tough to get those last reps, then you're good to go. If it's not tough, then just keep evolving the set range and or just add weight. You know what I mean? If it's just too easy, then just add more weight and there you go. There are things like that, and I feel like a lot of people make it a huge deal, and there have been videos about failure in the gym context that have gone over what it is, what it isn't. People are always arguing about it all the fucking time. Well, at least it was a topic of contention for a while there, because people were what constitutes it, what doesn't constitute it. Personally, I feel you don't have to go to the limits all the time, obviously, but like I said, there are certain movements you can go to the limits every single time and it's fine, you'll be all right. But with that being said, when it comes to failure in the gym, it's a little different. Obviously, it is a variety of stuff. It's funny because at the gym you want to reach failure or close to it, but in reality, in the real world, if we talk about the world of failure, if we're going to do it at the second meaning of it, failure is not fun. It is not good in the term outside of the gym. In the gym, it's all right because you're oh yeah, muscular failure, I'm pushing myself so hard that my muscles are just literally failing, so they have to grow. Everywhere else, it's not the same. Yes, you can in theory do that in the sense that you're training yourself to fail at something and then you grow from it and whatnot. That is something, which is at the end of the day the overarching thing, which we'll get into probably in the voiceover. But generally speaking, of course, failing in real life, not fun. Obviously, you find out that whatever you were doing, whatever was happening with you, whether you were trying to do some X, Y, or Z, was actually a mistake and a waste of time, and you fucked up. That's the worst feeling ever. I wouldn't say worst feeling ever, but a very bad feeling. Just fuck, that's it. Just fuck. And now you have to start either from scratch, go to the drawing board, and figure out what the fuck you need to do to fix it all. Unfortunately, because you failed, you found out what didn't work, so you cannot try that again and change it up. There are people who will end up trying it again and again and again. Those people are probably crazy, but that happens. But generally speaking, of course, when you fail in the real world, you find out what doesn't work and then you just try a different route. But we'll probably get into more of those when we get inside. But generally speaking, it's an interesting contrast that there is like the gym, you kind of want to get to the failure part and even go to it, and or like, even though technically it's not possible to go beyond failure, but that's just a whole other discussion. That's a semantics discussion. But still, the entire idea that you want to get there, you want to push yourself to the limits and possibly beyond the limits is interesting. And then in the real world, you want to push yourself, but once you get past it, it's like there's a lot more consequences that end up happening. Although there are consequences that happen at the gym, but it's very different, you know? Like it's very different, but also similar, because they're different in the feelings that you get by getting close to and or exceeding both, but then the afterwards, it's a little bit different. Like, so for example, if I'm like, oh man, I failed to do like overhead press. I pushed myself to the limit. I failed on an overhead press, right? It sucks, but I'm also like, okay, I know this is gonna probably grow me a little and it's gonna be great. If you fail in reality, first you have to kind of like face the idea that you failed and then kind of go from there and start from scratch again. Like, it's not an immediate bounce back. Usually, most of the time, you can't really bounce back immediately. I'll talk about my driver's license failed tests in the voiceover. But for now, I'll talk about that on the inside.
Alright, so on this day, start off with pause squats. They felt pretty good. I'm looking forward to getting back up to the weight that I was getting at when I was just doing regular squats. I think my hip issues have gone away slightly. I think a lot of it has to do with where I'm sitting technically and for how long. Doing these edits have kind of taken a toll. I should probably start doing them standing. But to get back to the main subject matter at hand here, which was failure, I wanted to discuss failure in the gym and how it is something you want to do as long as you're doing it safely. You want to get as close as humanly possible to that. You know, there are levels to it, obviously. You know, the entire RPE system is something that has been made. RPE, RIR, all that other jazz. You have to take it all the way to the point where you don't know how many you can do left in order to figure out what is your limit, so then you can accurately determine whether or not you can do one or two, a couple more, whatever. That's the main thing about those types of systems. So you have to take it to the limit in order to figure that out. Now, should you do it to everything? No. That's the main thing about it, is that not everything should be taken to failure. Like, for example, the pause squats. No, I know that squats are not something I fuck around with when it comes to failure. Another one would be bench when I'm benching by myself. That's another one do not fuck around with. A lot of heavy compound movements, but there are some exceptions. For example, overhead press is something that I can take to failure, but most of the time it's the I can't get another one up type deal. If I am halfway through a rep, I'm picking that one up, or it's life or death. So it's going up or I'm dying. So that one I can, once I'm done though, I'm done. Like, I can't get that up above my chin, basically. So that is something you gotta be careful with. But then there are other things you can kind of go to failure with, like, for example, machines. You can push yourself really hard on machines and not really have to worry about it that much per se. And you can go really, really hard on it. It's not that crazy of a thing to do. So yeah, like I was saying, you can get as far as failure in a lot of things. You can even go, quote, beyond failure in certain machines, you know, just kind of get those partial reps or like sloppy form or whatever and get a little bit more out of it. With that being said, though, it's not something that you should do all the time, / it is something you can do quite frequently, though. It's not necessarily you're fucked if you get to that point. It just depends on what levels you're getting to, you know? There are points where you're gonna get fatigued out, but if you're auto-regulating your program, like I am, then you should be all right with it, you know? That's the main thing. If your programming is good, then you don't have to really worry about it. Now, when talking about failure outside of the gym, I think that's a little bit of a different topic all on its own and very interesting. Just be smart about when you're pushing yourself to the limits, and you should be all right. But don't push yourself too much, or else you might fuck yourself over in the future. So just there's a nice healthy balance at the gym that you have to strike. I want to talk about this because I added this to the routine. This is now a part of the Quadzilla workout, the Jefferson curl, which I tried to do it with the old implementation. I'm going to try to do it with the easy bar next time. I didn't like how the weights would hit the side of the platform I was using, but it felt great. It felt fine. Honestly, I liked the way it made my back stretch. I feel like I could have a little bit more of a end range, but I got to work up to it. I went with this weight just because of this was what I was doing for my wrist roller, so I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm just gonna start with this. I've done them before with a 20, I think, so I think this isn't too bad. They felt fine. I'm gonna take my time with these. These are gonna be like one of the new added things that I spoke about a little bit in the experimentation video, so that is something that I am looking forward to. I'm wanting to see how these shape up and, you know, help me create the iron back that I would like to have. So these felt good, felt fine. I would recommend them so far. When I go up more in weight and stuff, we'll have to wait and see also. And I did like using the wrist roller implement just because it's a little bit thicker, so then that way it was a little bit of extra like forearm burn at the end of there, you know, just extra, and more forearm work is always better. But anyways, failure outside of the gym is something that you don't want to do, and or you want to try to get close to it, but when you achieve failure outside of the gym, it is a lot tougher to get back up on your feet. For example, I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but when I did my driver's license tests, I failed the first 2 times, and it sucked too because it was simple failures. It wasn't even like, you know, anything too crazy. It was like I forgot to put on the turn signal while doing the parking, and that was it. That's what failed me. I didn't even get to the part where I'd go drive out on the road, which sucked, because so I wanted to just redo it right then and there, you know, but I had to wait and do the appointment and do all that other jazz, like the whole rigmarole. So it's like, even when you quote fail in like something like that, you have to do the bureaucratic steps in order to get through the entire thing again, so you can maybe try again. That's what makes it failure a little bit harder in the real world, because it's not as simple as, all right, let me pick this back up and immediately start again, because sometimes it's not as simple as that. In the gym, you just kind of leave the session alone, and then you're good to go. You come back tomorrow or the next day or whatever. When it comes to outside of the gym, failure could be something as like, if you reach it, then you have to restart something that could take months or if not years of your life to restart over again, just because of the hoops and hurdles you're gonna have to go through, and it sucks. It's very much a shitty process to have to deal with, but it does happen, and I think most of the time it's about learning from those experiences that matter the most, honestly. Because if you're not learning from them, then you're really just doomed to try and fail again, and that's obviously not good, and probably going to be a detriment to your life in general.
And we're back. Hello and welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed. None. Exercises skipped. Also none, surprisingly. I almost had to skip ab work because the bars plus Roman chair were being used, and then also pull-ups were also being used. I got everything in, including Jefferson curls, which I hope I would have talked about during the voiceover, because that is something that is one of the new exercises I'm doing. Although I will say this now, is that I'm going to experiment with the different implementations to try to do them, because I want to try to find the best way to do it. I'll probably try to do it with the easy bar next time, just because I need to find a way to do them without too much of a hassle. That's why I used both of the different implementations. I only showed one, but I tried using the old strap that I would do like pronation curls and stuff like that with, but that didn't work out as well as I thought it would, so I ended up switching to the wrist roller, just rolled up all the way. I'll have to wait and see, maybe do it with the easy bar, maybe do it with another things. Feeling all right, nothing too crazy. My right hip hurts, which I think is because of the decline bench, so decline bench sit-ups, so I'm just gonna not do those, period, which sucked. So I was like, oh, okay, so this is what it is. So I'm probably gonna stay away from those for a little bit, or at least for until either I get better hip mobility, or just generally they just don't gel with me, so I need to figure that entire thing out. Overall, the hip issue, really, I'm feeling good. I really didn't feel my hip during squats or anything like that, so it must have been just the decline sit-ups, though. It's good to know, you know? But to go back to the main subject matter at hand, failure, I think mostly the reason why I've been thinking about this recently, besides the gym stuff, is just because of life throwing a bunch of curveballs all at once to me, and I'm like, I could be doing way more with myself than I am currently. So it's more of a like, have I failed at life in certain aspects? And quite frankly, yes, there are certain aspects I probably should have done better and quicker and more often, but at the same time, I've had enough obstacles in life that kind of caused some setbacks that were pretty obvious. But still, I think this is no time to moan and groan about these types of things, and to take and learn from the failures and really start pushing and prodding and figuring out how to succeed in life, because that's all that really matters, is succeeding, whether it's in the gym or outside, and learning from your failures. So I think that that is something that I need to do some self-reflection on, and this was kind of a self-reflective video in a certain sense, because I wanted to just get that out there, get the idea of that out there, and then just do it as a reminder that I've failed in certain aspects of my life and that I need to do things in order to fix them, so then that way I can move on and grow and be better as a person, you know? So with that being said, tell me in the comments what you think about failure, and just maybe some things that you failed at doing that you maybe want to go back to the drawing board and try again, or just you failed and then you just didn't even do it anymore because you realized, oh, fuck it, you know, it's not worth it, and or whatever other reason you might tell yourself. But anyways, I would like to know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I will be back on tomorrow with another video. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Peace.